In December of 1959, the company that builds cars like the modern BMW M3, the M badge, the ultimate driving machine, the poster on a million bedroom walls, was one shareholder meeting away from effectively falling under the control of its biggest rival, Mercedes. Its own board was backing the plan. Daimler-Benz, the company behind Mercedes, would move in, take the commanding position, and BMW's days as an independent car maker would be over. That was the plan, and it very nearly went through. And the thing that had kept BMW alive long enough to even be in that room wasn't a car. Not really. It was this. A tiny bubble of a thing called the BMW Isetta. You got in through the front. The whole nose of the car swung open, steering wheel and dashboard swinging out with it. It made about 12 horsepower. The two back wheels sat so close together it didn't even need a differential. And in a head-on crash, your only way out was the canvas sunroof. Here's the part that matters for this channel. BMW built it around one of its own motorcycle engines, off the BMW R25. And because of that little engine, under the German licensing rules of the time, you could drive one on nothing more than a motorcycle license. No full car license needed. BMW's gorgeous sports car, the BMW 507, the one Elvis Presley owned, they built just 251 of those and lost money on every single one. This ridiculous little egg, 161,728. So the most serious car company in the world was very nearly killed by its most beautiful car and kept breathing by a machine you could drive on a bike license. How does that even happen? Grab a coffee, because this one is genuinely mad. To understand it, you have to go back to 1945. Picture Munich. The factory is half rubble, the occupation authorities have seized what's left, and the proud maker of aircraft engines and motorcycles isn't allowed to build vehicles at all, so it's staying alive by turning out pots, pans, and bicycles. That's where BMW really is at the end of the war. The Munich plant is bombed to pieces. The big factory over in Eisenach, the one that actually knew how to build BMW cars, ends up on the wrong side of the map. The Soviets take it, and with it goes most of the tooling and the know-how. So the proud maker of aircraft engines and fast motorcycles is reduced to hammering out cooking pots, kitchen pans, farm tools, and a handful of bicycles just to keep the lights on and pay the workers. Sometimes the workers get paid in the pots themselves. Slowly, it claws back. At the end of 1948, BMW is finally allowed to build motorcycles again, and the first one, the BMW R24, a single-cylinder bike with a 247 cubic centimeter engine, is a genuine hit. More than 9,000 of them sell in the first year alone. Remember that little single-cylinder engine because it comes back later in the strangest way. Then, in 1952, BMW builds its first proper car since before the war, the BMW 501, a big, elegant luxury sedan. And this is the decision that quietly sets the trap. Because BMW looks at a bombed-out, broke, rationed Germany and decides its future is in expensive luxury cars. On paper, it almost makes sense. BMW is a premium name. Why fight for scraps at the bottom when you can sell to people who still have money? So through the 1950s, BMW leans in. First the 501, then the bigger 502 with a brand new V8, beautiful heavy cars the Germans nicknamed the Baroque Angel. There's just one problem. Almost nobody in 1950s Germany can afford them. The country is still rebuilding. This is a place where most families are still getting around on a bicycle or a motorbike, if they've got anything at all. The people with real money are rare, and the ones who have it can buy a Mercedes. So BMW's gorgeous luxury cars sit in showrooms, cost a fortune to build, and sell in tiny numbers. The money is going out far faster than it's coming in. And then BMW does the boldest, most expensive thing yet. In 1954, an American walks into BMW with an idea. His name is Max Hoffman, and he's the most important car importer in the United States. The man who'd already talked Mercedes into building a road version of its 300 SL race car. Hoffman looks at BMW and sees a gap in the American market, something sexier than a cheap British roadster, cheaper than a Mercedes. He tells BMW to build a glamorous, open-top sports car and ship it to America by the thousand. BMW says yes. They bring in designer Albrecht von Gortz, drop in that new 3.2-liter V8, and build one of the most beautiful cars of the entire decade, the 507. And it really is stunning. A low, curvy aluminum roadster that still stops people dead today. The plan is to sell around 5,000 a year in the States at roughly $5,000 each. That's the whole business case. That is what's supposed to save BMW. It goes catastrophically wrong. Because building a handmade aluminum body is slow and brutally expensive, and the costs spiral. By the time the 507 reaches America, the price has ballooned. It's closer to $9,000 and then more. At that price, it's bumping right up against the Mercedes 300 SL, and the buyers just aren't there. Instead of 5,000 a year, BMW builds just 251 of them, not per year. In total, over the entire run. And here's the killer detail. BMW doesn't just sell too few. By most accounts, it loses money on every single one it does sell, often estimated at around 12,000 Deutsche Marks a car, a small fortune at the time. The car built to save the company is quietly bleeding it instead, one beautiful roadster at a time. The 507 becomes a legend, by the way. It's the car BMW built to go head-to-head with the Mercedes 300 SL, and the few buyers it did find were the sort who could afford anything. Elvis had one, so did the dancer Fred Astaire, and a couple of actual kings. Today the survivors sell for millions, but in 1959, it's one spectacularly expensive part of a much bigger mess. BMW's big luxury cars are losing money, its motorcycle sales are sliding, its model range is a jumble of extremes, and the company's losses for the year climb past 15 million marks. So picture BMW at the end of the decade, a proud premium brand, building some of the prettiest cars in the world and going broke doing it. The luxury cars don't sell. The halo car is a money pit. The creditors are circling. Amid all of that, BMW has exactly one product selling in serious numbers, and it's the one that looks least like a BMW. To find it, you have to leave Germany completely and go to Italy, to a company that a few years earlier was making refrigerators. Its owner is a man called Renzo Revolta. Revolta started out in refrigeration, then after the war switched to scooters and small motorcycles, and did well enough that his company, ISO, became one of the biggest two-wheeler makers in Italy, behind only Vespa and Lambretta. So already there's a theme here: fridges, then motorbikes, then cars. Because Revolta wants to build a proper little car, something ordinary, broke, post-war Europeans can actually afford. His engineers come up with something nobody has ever seen before: a small egg-shaped bubble on wheels with a single door, and that door is the entire front of the car. The whole nose hinges open like a fridge, and the steering wheel and dashboard swing out on a joint so you can climb in. They call it the Isetta. It means, roughly, Little ISO. It's genuinely clever, really the world's first proper microcar. About 7.5 feet long, you can park it nose first against the curb and step straight out onto the pavement. Revolta's so proud of it, he enters a batch in the 1954 Miglia, the Great Italian Road Race, and wins the economy class. He describes the thing himself as half motorcycle and half car, which turns out to be the most accurate thing anyone ever says about it. There's just one snag. In Italy, it flops. Italians don't want it. The Isetta is a brilliant idea that nobody's buying, which leaves Revolta with a design, a patent, and no market. So he does the sensible thing. He starts licensing it out to anyone abroad who wants to build it. A French company takes it, a Brazilian company takes it. And then, In 1955, a desperate, broke, luxury-obsessed German carmaker comes knocking, looking for literally anything it can sell in volume. BMW buys the license to the little Italian egg, and then it does the one thing that makes this whole story belong on a motorcycle channel. BMW doesn't just slap its badge on the Italian car and ship it. It basically rebuilds the thing, and the heart of the rebuild is the engine. Out goes the little Italian two-stroke scooter motor, and in its place, BMW drops in a modified 247 cubic centimeter single-cylinder four-stroke, the same single-cylinder engine family that had restarted the company back in 1948, now in the form used by its R25 motorcycle. About 12 horsepower bolted into a tiny car. And BMW doesn't do it by halves. It flips the cylinder head around, beefs up the crankshaft, and re-engineers so much of the rest of the car that, in the end, next to nothing interchanges between the German Isetta and the Italian original. Underneath that Italian bodywork, it's really a BMW motorbike in disguise. And that engine choice turned out to matter for a reason that had nothing to do with how the car drove. It came down to paperwork. Because in 1950s Germany, the old Class 4 driving license didn't just cover motorcycles. It also covered certain very small vehicles with engines under 250 cubic centimeters. So the 247 cubic centimeter Isetta slipped right under that line, which meant thousands of Germans who only held a motorcycle license and had no full car license at all could legally get behind the wheel of one. Think about what that means. In a country full of people who couldn't afford a real car, and plenty who'd only ever passed a motorcycle test, BMW suddenly had a product that gave them 4 wheels, a roof over their heads, and shelter from the rain for motorcycle money and on a motorcycle license. It was the cheapest possible on-ramp from 2 wheels to 4. And that one quirk of the rulebook is a big reason the cheap little Isetta became BMW's runaway bestseller. The first BMW Isetta rolls out in April 1955. In the first 8 months, BMW sells around 10,000 of them. It even offers a bigger version almost straight away. By late 1955, there's an Isetta 300 with a 298 cubic centimeter engine and 13 horsepower. And when Germany tightens those license rules in 1956, the whole reason to keep the engine under 250 cubic centimeters quietly falls away. Both versions top out at a heart-stopping 53 miles an hour. It's slow, it's tiny, it's faintly ridiculous. And it's selling in numbers the beautiful 507 could only dream of. And the timing helps too. 2 things line up for a cheap little bubble car. First, post-war Europe is full of people who need transport and have almost no money, exactly the Isetta's customer. And second, in 1956, the Suez Crisis chokes off Europe's oil supplies. Fuel gets scarce, rationing comes in across several countries, and a car that barely sips petrol from a tiny one-cylinder engine suddenly looks a lot less like a joke. Now, the Isetta was already a hit before any of that. Remember, 10,000 sold in the first year alone. Suez just poured petrol on the fire, so to speak. The bubble car becomes the runaway success BMW's entire luxury range never was. Over its run, BMW builds 161,728 Isettas, and the design gets licensed and assembled all over the place. In France, in Britain, where they built them in an old railway works down in Brighton, in Argentina, in Brazil, in Spain. The daft little egg goes global, and that 161,728 doesn't even include the car BMW spun off the same idea. A stretched 4-seat version called the BMW 600, which adds another 35,000 or so on top. And this is the money that keeps BMW's doors open. While the 507 bleeds and the luxury sedans gather dust, it's the little motorcycle-engined bubble car paying the wages and keeping the factory running. But here's the honest part of the story. The Isetta doesn't actually save BMW, not on its own. Because by the end of the 1950s, 2 things go wrong at once. The bubble car craze starts to fade as Germany gets richer and people want real cars again. And the luxury side is still hemorrhaging money. The little egg bought BMW time. It did not fix the hole in the bottom of the boat. If you're enjoying watching this company cheat death, do me a favor and hit subscribe. I dig into stories exactly like this one every week. So by 1959, all that borrowed time runs out, and BMW ends up right back in that boardroom we started in. Here's the situation going into that meeting. BMW is losing money. The creditors, the banks it owes, want a solution, and the solution on the table is a rescue backed by Daimler-Benz, Mercedes. Now, this isn't Mercedes trying to crush a rival. In 1959, BMW is no threat to Mercedes at all. On paper, the plan is a sweeping financial restructuring / BMW's capital, issue new shares to a group in which Daimler holds the whip hand, and hand Stuttgart effective control of the company. Daimler's own history insists the BMW brand was meant to survive. But make no mistake, the fiercely independent BMW we know today would have been finished. And BMW's dealers were convinced it meant their mark being slowly reduced to a body shop, stamping out panels for Mercedes. And BMW's own management is recommending it. To them, it's the only realistic way out. Take the deal or go bankrupt. So on the 9th of December, 1959, everyone gathers for the annual shareholders meeting in Munich, and the restructuring is on the agenda. On paper, it's a done deal. The board backs it, the big banks back it, all that's left is a show of hands. And it turns into one of the most dramatic annual meetings in German industrial history, a marathon session that drags on for hours. And then it doesn't happen, because the people the board didn't count on decide to fight. The small shareholders, ordinary people with a few shares each, and BMW's own dealers, whose entire livelihoods depend on there being a BMW to sell, revolt right there in the room. And they've brought a lawyer. His name is Friedrich Mathern, and he tears the restructuring accounts apart. His killer point, BMW had quietly buried the entire development cost of a brand new car, a small one called the 700, in its 1958 books, in a way that made the company look far worse than it really was. In other words, the books had been arranged to bury the one real sign of hope BMW had, that little 700. Hold on to that car, because it matters in a minute. It works. The meeting is adjourned, the vote is pushed back, and Daimler's offer, which came with a ticking clock, quietly expires. And into that gap steps one man. His name is Herbert Quandt. And to understand why he matters, you need to know he's not some outsider riding to the rescue. Quandt is already one of BMW's biggest shareholders. His family, the Quandts, run a sprawling industrial empire, around 200 companies, everything from batteries to metals, and they already own roughly 30% of BMW. Here's the twist. They also own about 10% of Daimler-Benz. The man with the deciding hand in BMW's fate has a foot in both camps. And at first, Quandt is for the deal. It's the safe move. It's what his advisors want. On pure numbers, letting Mercedes take this bleeding, chaotic company off his hands is the rational choice. But then he watches that meeting. He watches the workers and the dealers and the small investors fight for BMW like it's worth saving. And he keeps coming back to that one car, the 700, because Quandt isn't betting completely blind. The BMW 700 had appeared just months earlier, in 1959, and it was the first real sign this company might have a future. It was still small, and its little rear engine was a 697 cubic centimeter flat twin lifted straight out of BMW's motorcycles. There's that motorbike DNA again. But this time it looked and drove like a proper modern car, styled with an Italian hand and quick enough that it would soon be winning races. When BMW showed it at the Frankfurt Motor Show, the orders came flooding in. By the time of that shareholders meeting, something like 25,000 people had already put their names down for one. BMW's own history says it plainly. It was the perseverance of the workforce and Quandt's confidence in the 700 that convinced him to change his mind. So he does the opposite of what everyone expects. Against the advice of the very people paid to advise him, Quandt starts pouring his own fortune into BMW, buying up more and more of it until, through the rescue, he holds a controlling stake, around half the company, and by 1960, the family share has grown to roughly 2/3. He blocks the Daimler deal, pumps in the cash BMW desperately needs, and keeps it independent. Sit with that for a second. One man bets an enormous chunk of his own fortune on a company his own advisors are begging him to get rid of, and the 700 pays him back. In 1960, BMW sells more than 35,000 of them, and that one little car brings in around 58% of the company's entire revenue. It drags BMW back off the floor and onto the road to recovery. But the 700 is only half the comeback. To go from barely surviving to genuinely thriving, BMW needs one more car. That car is the BMW 1500. And it's a total break from everything BMW had been doing wrong. It's not a bank-breaking luxury barge. It's not a bubble on wheels. It's a clean, modern, sporty little sedan aimed dead center at the growing German middle class, the exact people who now, finally, had a bit of money and wanted a proper car. BMW shows it off at the Frankfurt Motor Show in September 1961, and the reaction is instant. People crowd around it. The press love it. It pretty much defines a new kind of car. The compact premium sports sedan, roomy enough for a family, but built for someone who actually enjoys driving. The 1500 is the first of what BMW called the Neue Klasse, the new class. If the 700 got BMW off the floor, the 1500 is the car that turns a company clinging to survival into a serious modern car maker. The engine BMW designed for it was so good, it stayed in production for the better part of 30 years, and in turbocharged form, it went on to win Formula One. The 1500's DNA runs straight through to the 3 Series, the 5 Series, the M cars, the entire ultimate driving machine the company is famous for today. The outfit that was one meeting away from falling into Mercedes' hands goes on to become one of the most valuable car makers on the planet. And that family that made the reckless bet? The Quants, today Suzanne Clatton and Stefan Quant, still control close to half of BMW. So step back and look at what actually happened. The most serious car company in the world was very nearly destroyed by its most beautiful, most celebrated car, a gorgeous roadster that lost money with every sale. And the thing that kept it alive was the vehicle everyone laughed at, a tiny Italian egg that BMW rebuilt around a motorcycle engine. Slow, silly, 12 horsepower, drivable on a bike license, and by a huge margin the most important thing BMW built in the entire 1950s. Line the survivors up and the pattern is hard to miss. The Isetta kept the lights on. The 700 proved BMW could sell real cars again. And the 1500 finished the job and made the company great. 2 of those 3 ran engines that started life in BMW's motorcycles. So next time a BMW M car goes screaming past, you know what actually saved the company that built it. If you like this one, I've got a whole pile of stories about the ridiculous little machines that rescued giant companies. I'll see you in the next one.